All right. Trying to get this as good as I can. So I'm leaving Costco, and I just want to talk about, what I've learned in 35 years. Not that I have a lot of wisdom, but just interesting to see what I prefer nowadays. I, as a 35-year-old man this year, I'm actually really like going to Costco now. I really like staying inside. I actually really like going out, though. I do. I will admit. It's just, I really enjoy just, oh, shoot. Going to Costco. Something happened right there. Wasn't supposed to just stop. But yeah, I really like going to Costco. I really like, doing the things that adults like to do. I started making these old man noises, right? But I just do it for dramatic effect. It's kind of fun because I'm allowed to do that now, I feel like. I don't know. But this is just kind of like that coming of age period. If you think about it, it's like if you live till 70, let's say, this is like the halfway point, right? So a lot of people might think, you're having a midlife crisis or whatever. But, I'm in the middle of really solidifying my career, my job that I'm going to be doing for the rest of my life. But, I know that I'm going to be either in the restaurant business because my family has a business. I could take that over. I could basically, run it, and all I have to figure out is just certain technical things, but other than that, I could take it over and I could do that for the rest of my life. We have a good client base or customers, that know us, and we don't have a lot of competition, so everything is good. But then there is this other area, because the restaurant business requires a lot of, time. That's the thing about work in general, but restaurant business is not as cut and dry as a 9 to 5. 9 to 5, when you work for somebody, you could call off, occasionally. You have sick days and things like that. Restaurant business, not at all. Especially if you're the owner and it's owner operated, meaning only the owners work or they have a few workers with them. That is the only, Uh-oh, that thing fell over. I think it should be fine. My little coffee bag. But yeah, so if the owners are operating it, that means they have to be there, regardless if they have COVID, if they get in a car crash. Actually, there was this one time that I got in a car crash and I still had to show up to work because no one else could do what I did, or whatever it was that was going on, so yeah. Okay, so now I'm back. I have my little mic hooked up. But anyways, I'm trying to decide between the career paths. I can go to school again. I can, get into the medical field. They have really good schedules, 3 days a week, usually 3 to 4 days a week, 12-hour shifts. But it's a really good schedule. We're about to start a family, and there's a lot to think about. First off, we need to pay off most of our debt, student loans, credit cards, things like that, and then get into a nice enough house, or a good sized apartment. There is that, but there's a lot that has been, kind of been like learning lessons throughout the almost 2 years that we've been married, maybe a year and a half, right? And you just, realize what's important, and a lot of people don't realize. I'm not saying I know everything or that this is the standard, but I think it is. Honestly, I think that family is very important. I think that stability and really finding that balance, because I used to work all the time. Like, I'm talking 6-7 days, church. I was pretty much always doing something, and I never really had a chance to go places, or once in a while, yes, but consistently, no. And something that I've learned is that, you just need to be consistent, and the time will find you. The time will come where you can enjoy life, where you can, do the things that you want to do. And the point that I'm trying to make is that a lot of people say, time will run out, and, you never know, when you're going to have a chance, or you get too old, and, by the time you retire, you're not going to be able to be as healthy, and so you can't enjoy the things that you want to do, so you might as well do it now. And that is true. But the flip side is, there is a time to wait. There is a time where you can enjoy what you can, and that is enough. You know what I mean? Like, we don't have to go on all these cruises. We don't have to go to, all of these places, go cross country, the hotels, the fancy foods, or the different types of foods, and all of that stuff is great. But, what I've learned from living in the high desert, we call it, it's sort of like in between LA and Vegas. What I've learned is that, you really make do with what you have. I lived in Barstow, and another place called Silver Lakes, and there's really not a lot. Silver Lakes really doesn't have too much. You don't have the major stores like, Walmarts or anything like that. It's a very small town, but it's a beautiful town with a lake, 2 lakes, and golf courses. It's a retirement community. Barstow is like, I don't know how to describe it. It's a small town, but it has the places like McDonald's and stuff like that, but it's just, I don't know. There's just not a lot to do there. And so, people get bored and they start making bad decisions. You get the point. But, and before that, I used to live in down by Long Beach, down in Torrance, and, LA as well. And, there's a lot to do, but it's very crowded, very, some parts are dangerous. And, but it was nice to have the beach right there. And we can make a trip to the beach, which we didn't do too much. I was still in elementary to middle school. And then in middle school, I moved up here to the high desert. And I guess I wasn't old enough to get to enjoy certain things and have my own independence and stuff like that. But it was a very rough transition because it happened so suddenly. I had some friends down there, and like, it was not fun for me at that time. However, since I'm a Christian, I know that God always is directing our paths, right? He's always showing us or guiding us, and everything that happens in life, he knows about, and he's sovereign. And so he brought us up here because my dad's a pastor, and he got connected with some people up here, and then he started a church and things like that. And I have learned a lot transitioning from like the city, the metropolitan area, to more of like the country area, right? And I had to transition out of that and really just make do with what I have. And after a while, it just became second nature. And, it's funny because like we were in Texas, actually. Me and my wife were in Texas for like 3 years, and there's a lot to do there. There's a lot around, and it's very convenient, and there's like 4 or 5 Costco's within 30 miles, and it's like, wow, this is so nice. Over here in the high desert, we got one Costco to all of these people, right? But just coming back, you realize, you know, this place called Victorville. Before, I would see it as like the big city. You know, they have all this stuff. Like, they got not Walmart. They got a mall. They got, you know, the movie theaters and stuff like that. Barstow, they didn't have that. Well, it was kind of not that great. But, and then we moved to Texas and we got to see all that. And then we came back here, and even Victorville was like, it's not the best. And so you just realize that all of those things are really optional, or they're not as important as we might have thought before. You know, so what if we don't have all the places and all the things, you know, within arm's reach? Like if we were living down in LA, or we really like going to Disneyland, and so Anaheim is a very great area. But that's okay, because we could just make a trip down there. It takes like 2 hours, maybe less than 2 hours. We can go to Six Flags, another hour and a half, you know, Vegas, 2 hours. And so I'm not trying to say that the desert is like this ideal place, because, you know, if it was up to me, I would like to live down in these other areas. But the point I am trying to make is that because we're in this area, the desert, there's not a lot here. You tend to just not get as distracted, and you know, there's a danger to that though, because you can get depressed and you can have a heaviness and things like that. But in reality too, it is an ideal place to go and encounter God, you know, and to really realize what's important. And I've realized, just being back here, that family is very important, you know, our health, and just making the best with what we have, you know. And yeah, that's sort of what I learned in the last 10 years or something like that. That it's, you know, running a business and doing this and the careers and all that is important, and I'm figuring that out right now. But what's also important too is just finding that balance, you know, because it's a family business. I can't stay away too long, and I don't know if people understand that part, but you know, if I'm not there when it's busy, you can feel it. You know, I'm not saying I'm the most important person. It's me and my parents, just the three of us. We don't even have workers, you know. It's that small of a place, but it gets so packed and busy, and just like to-go orders, that we need to find another system, but that'll come later. But if one person is not there and it gets so busy, then you could feel it, right? So you know, but I am able to sort of take little trips and little breaks here and there, and even that's a blessing. And there are times where I get very anxious and very like tired, lethargic, and like mentally drained, I'll say, with this type of work. Even though it's a very beautiful area, the customers are great, you just kind of go a little stir crazy too sometimes. And I'm just going to be honest, that's what happens. But, you know, you just have to make do. You just have to make do with what you have, right? So another thing happened, which I'll get to in a second. Alright, just making sure my thing's not overheating. So this is kind of like what I learned in 15 years of being a sushi chef working in the restaurant business. Really, it's not as glamorous as people think. I'm sorry to say, but I started as a dishwasher, and then I got connected somehow to learn sushi through a friend, and I became a chef at a restaurant. And then from there, my dad wanted to open up our own restaurant. I was only a sushi chef for like 8 months. I didn't have a lot, but somehow we were able to do it. We collected the funds, and we opened it up very bare bones, no advertising, not even a sign outside, you know what I mean? It was very bare bones. And we started, made only like $20 in the first day, maybe less, and that was discouraging. But the moral of the story in almost every story is you just got to keep going, you got to be consistent. And something that I learned though is that you can prepare, you can get all this stuff, kind of like vlogging, right? Kind of like setting up a YouTube channel. You can get all this stuff ready. It doesn't mean it's going to be what you think it's going to be. Just because you have everything, or when you start, it's going to turn out differently. And so we had our menu, a basic menu, and I did my best. We didn't go through any company to make a fancy menu. We didn't have paper menus or nothing like that. Just, I think, 1 or like 10 laminated pieces of paper, right? Saying, little items on the menu and stuff like that. Types of rolls, different types of rolls. My dad made a banner with like 10 rolls on it, and then that was it. But one day, I decided to experiment. This is after maybe like a month or 2 of opening. I decided to experiment. I said, hey, I know this roll is really good, but let me make it my own. And so I got the ingredients together, and me and my mom kind of like worked together, and we created our most popular item just out of nowhere. It wasn't even like, super planned or anything. So that's what I mean. It's like organically things will happen, and your business, your restaurant will develop on its own. There is that element too, but we can't be, just relaxed and expect things like that to happen. You have to make the effort. You have to, carefully just be intentional and try to push your business forward. And so people caught on to that, and very quickly, just like it popped off. And a lot of the people here, everybody loves that roll. Everyone. And then from there, we started making more and more and more different types of rolls, where we have like, I don't know, like 50 plus different rolls. It could be a little bit like confusing at times, but once you get a good understanding of what we have, then it's not that hard. But it does take a lot of time to put the sauces and the ingredients and all that. But from there, we eventually did get a sign, but that was later down the line, maybe I think a year, which is crazy. But I think that's why they say hole in the wall places are better, just because it's real. And that, I think that's what people are looking for nowadays. It's like everything on Instagram and TikTok and social media is just so, it just feels very like, I don't know, uniform. Everyone's doing each other's like contents, like the formats and all that, and it just feels kind of fake. People want something real. And I'm basically, where our restaurant is in the middle of the desert, in the middle of nowhere, in a retirement community. I mean, it's different for sure, but we have a beautiful view of the lake. We have, it's a beautiful community. Our customers are amazing, and we couldn't ask for more. And so Another thing I want to talk about with customers is that you really have to be intentional in that area as well. I'm not saying like it's a formula, but they're people, and you got to think of them as if you were being served yourself. They're people, and you form relationships with them, and I don't like going to places and the server's rude to me, and the chefs or whoever I'm dealing with is rude to me, and the food isn't that good. And then I'm paying a lot, right? If you pay a lot and you don't even get, like, I don't know, half of what you expect to get, or just something seems off, then it doesn't feel good, But if you go to a place and they're nice to you, the food is really good, and it's reasonably priced, then they're gonna come back. And especially if the chef recognizes you and he tailors your food to how you like it, then that makes a person feel really good. Now, I will say that our restaurant's not perfect. We have long wait times due to we're pretty much understaffed. But with the way that this town is, like the traffic, the flow is, there's not a consistent flow of traffic for us to be able to tell when to hire people. But I guess we should anyways, right? But that's in the works. But yeah, a lot of the customers, I did my best to form a relationship with them. I did my best to, not just see it as a transaction, but see it more as a relationship. Like, the only thing between us becoming friends right now is I don't see you that as often, only here, and then, you obviously come see me and us for the food, but I want us to feel like we're family. I want us to feel like, we are actual friends, and I would treat my business like that. We would treat our business like that, and it did a lot more than we thought. We have all these customers that love us, and we love them back, and it's so important to just be just be invested, be intentional, and I think another thing too is just making sure that your mental and your physical health are in good condition, because it can be very taxing. And the restaurant schedule is not easy to work around. I know people work in the medical field, and it's like 12-hour days, 6 to 6. My wife works that, and it's not easy. But in any field, any profession, any career, you really need to make sure that you're taking care of yourself, because if you're so wrapped up in what you're doing, and then somewhere along the line you suffer physically and mentally and all that, then, no one wants that. So, the good thing about the restaurant business is that I can go in a little bit later, like maybe 9 or 10. And especially if we live close by, which we are going to be in this town pretty soon. We're living like 30 minutes away, but now we're going to move back into town, and we'll be like 5 minutes away. And what I'm going to start doing is running. I'm going to